So we're down to 2 today, aren't we?
Absolutely.
Joyce, I think he had his Mardi Gras reunion.
Absolutely.
Couldn't get out of it. And Louis, as we mentioned in the last podcast, he is out in Mongolia.
Yeah, last I heard Mongolia, he was like catching a train to the World Cup from China or something.
Yeah. Oh, no, I think he went to Mongolia and then he went to Beijing and he's there at the moment.
Yeah.
God, it's hard to keep up with him. But he's watching all the Eagles games, which is ridiculous.
Yeah.
He's like, I've seen him all over Big Footy commenting, letting everyone know about what he thinks.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous. That's dedication.
He's committed to the cause, what can I say?
If I was sleeping on the road in Mongolia, like he probably is, I would not be catching up with the Eagles games.
It'd probably be pretty low on my to-do list, especially being a Dockers fan. We're not going quite as well as you guys. We're going okay, though, I feel.
Yeah, they're going all right. They're going all right. I guess the first thing we do have to talk about, though, we've had a month off, so a lot's happened, but the Eagles.
Mate, even a couple of weeks ago, I finally said, yeah, you guys are a legitimate shot, and I've been denying it all year. I finally said it.
Well,
because no other contender is really bulletproof.
That's true. That's true.
At this point, like the Adelaides and stuff of the world don't look like world-breaking sort of teams.
Yeah, that's right. I think Adelaide in particular have a few injuries. GWS do as well. Adelaide still keep ticking over, but then they keep losing a couple of games like Port. They beat them in the showdown, which was probably one of the best games I've ever seen. And then they obviously smashed the Dogs. So it's a bit too early to get a read on them yet. When they get a few players back, I'm actually a little bit worried about them. But just getting back to West Coast, no one can blame you, I think, for not rating the Eagles up until now because, frankly, look at the form they showed last year. Other than a few games at the end,
even the pre-season. You were the popular pick to slide this year, let's put it that way.
Yeah, well, in JLT 2, Fremantle won by 10 goals, didn't they?
It's closer to 100 than 10 goals, I think, was it?
Nah, it was only 60.
I swore it was closer to 100. I swore it was like 100. Let us know in the comments.
I got a feeling it was like 101 to 39. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah. So... why do you think the Eagles have come good?
Well, I was going to say, Jack Darling, he's emerged.
Oh, man.
He's no longer Jack Darling. He's earned his Jack Darling actual name, I'd say, at this stage of the game.
He's earned the right to be called his normal name.
Exactly.
Yes. No, you're right. I was pretty onto Darling's case last year. He was just looking... I was of the opinion that he got a bit too big, physically. When he started off and played so well, he was still quite an athletic and agile kind of guy for his size. And now he's probably pushing 100 kilos plus now. And he's just that huge hulking full forward. And last year, he did not look good. I think maybe mentally he wasn't into it last year. I think last year he was expecting a child and then the child came early and stuff like that. I don't know. You never know how much this plays on a player's mind. But nowadays, he's looking so confident. And
I was going to say, do you think it's because Kennedy was out the first few weeks that gave him a real good crack to just take charge? Well,
Kennedy missed 5 weeks last year in the middle of the year. He did his ankle or Achilles. I can't remember which one it was. I think it was his ankle. And Darling was pretty average. And I mean, it's one thing to say the delivery to him is better this year. I think we're getting the ball through the midfield a lot easier to him. So he's taking contested marks like no one else right now.
So I'll say the one rip on you guys, in the pre-season, is you've lost guys like Priest and Mitchell. Drawback of those guys, they weren't the best. Hit someone on the nail type kick. So
well, Mitchell was, but not Priest. Yeah.
So maybe now you've got a bit more of that. That could be.
The amazing thing is West Coast have gone from being the 17th out of 18 for clearances last year. And I'm not sure where we are now, but we're actually a good clearance side. We're beating good teams in clearances. I think we might have...
Nat could be helping that.
He is, but I don't think he's actually playing that well. I think at the start of the year against Sydney, he had some amazing games and definitely helps to win the tap. But I also think guys like Redden, Yo, and even Gaff are all winning more clearances.
Redden's emerged, I'd say as well. That's another...
Yeah, Redden had a 3-game period where he averaged 9 clearances and 32 possessions, and I don't think he's ever played like that, let alone even at Brisbane. So
I was just say you'd be loving the Brizzy Lions, Yo and Redden.
I know. That is a great point. We have profited from that. They've lost some good players from the go home 5. They lost Yo. Pollack is doing all right at Port. Yeah. Doherty obviously is probably one of Carlton's best players at the moment. Obviously he's out of injury. But yeah, just getting back to West Coast, I think the primary 4 midfielders, for the first time in a long time, you could say look pretty good players. Shuey, Gaff, Yo, and then Redden, believe it or not.
And even Sheed as your fifth is...
Yeah.
He has moments.
I thought he battled on the weekend. I think he looked a bit short of a gallop, looked a bit tired. He missed 2 weeks with a foot or ankle.
I wouldn't say he's an athletic beast, really.
He's
just
not. Yeah, you're right. He's pretty slow. And if he's put under pressure, he somehow gets it out. But he also gets caught with the ball a little bit. So... but no, as a fifth midfielder, we're in a pretty good spot at the start of the year. I think everyone was like, who is your midfield?
Because Yo was sort of a backman.
Yeah, that's right. And he's put in a pretty close to elite sort of run of form recently. So, big game against Hawthorn this week. If we win it, we're a good chance to go 10-1 at the bye. So you have to say, I mean, I've been looking into how to get final tickets. I'm one of about 10,000 Eagles fans who are starting to jump the gun and looking at flights for Melbourne, but it is so hard. Have you ever looked into it?
No, not really, because there's only one time when I thought about looking into it, but I'd been to Melbourne earlier in the year that year, so it was a bit...
You were probably a bit poor, eh? 2013, like first year uni. Yeah.
To be fair, I was working at Blue Collar, so I could have got as many shifts as I wanted, but they were pretty shit shifts at Blue Collar.
It's expensive to go to the grand final though. If you try and buy flights and a match ticket mid-year, you have to spend about $1,500 on a package. And then that's not including flights. Like if you just want a match ticket right now, it's like $1,300 minimum.
For like bleacher seats.
Well, what they give you is they package it with something else. Like the cheapest one was that and one other final. So look, that's what, $650 each game. And then if you're... there's other things like going to the grand final dinner or grand final brunch or whatever it is.
Do they incorporate the footy show thing into it, or nah? Is that
I haven't seen one, but that's just an example of what might be in there. And then they charge you out the absolute nose for it. So the only way to get genuine match tickets, I'm going to burp, excuse me.
It's the Coke.
I really didn't want to burp into the microphone. The only way to do that, and how I got tickets in 2015, was you have to nominate as a member your intention to go into the draw. And then like 50% of members get a chance to go to the grand final. So, but they release that the Monday after you find out you're in the grand final. So you have to buy your flights now and then hope that your team wins a prelim and then try and buy a ticket.
And the thing is, they know, every flight provider knows that time of year they can afford to jack up prices. Same with accommodation.
Even now, it's really expensive. Even looking at it now, I looked at it a couple of weeks ago, and since then it's hiked up a bit. I think it's like $400 for one way, and I think you can normally do it for like $180. That was on Jetstar. So
I'd say it's usually about $200, $250 to get to Melbourne.
Yeah, that's right.
Because I know when I went a few years ago, it was $500 return, but we flew Virgin and booked those pretty last minute. So.
Okay, yeah, that's not bad. Well, we should probably talk about Richmond as well. What are your thoughts on them?
I'm still thinking they're good.
Yep.
Like, to be fair, Optus Stadium's been a fortress for both teams. You guys lost once against Sydney. Other than that, neither team's lost other than Freo in the Derby, but that was still to a WA team. Yeah. So it seems to be a bit of a fortress so far, Optus.
It is.
On the whole.
I think Richmond get a bit let off with their poor away record, because of how many games they play at the G. And they play really well at the G, and don't get me wrong, they're probably still the number one team. But if they had to play away finals in Perth or Adelaide, I can't see them getting up. Like, Adelaide belted them by 6 goals.
Even Sydney, if they had to go to the SCG.
Yeah. Mind you, Sydney's not playing well at home at the moment. So, but I take your point. It's just Richmond travelling... at Adelaide Oval. Last year, when they won the premiership, obviously, they were unbeaten in round 5 or 6 and went to Adelaide and lost by 76 points. And I think that was when everyone started to think Richmond were not to be taken seriously. Yeah, exactly. So, but, I mean, the important thing is for them, if they finish top 2, they're probably not going to have to play anywhere except the MCG. Yeah. And they're probably going to finish top 2, you'd say.
Yeah. At this stage, it's top, because you guys and them are pretty clear of Adelaide, Melbourne, who's third, funnily enough.
Yeah, they are. Well, we've got a tough fixture after the bye. We've got away games against Sydney, Adelaide, I think Port, and we have a home game against GWS and Melbourne. There's another tough away game, and plus a derby. I think we're going to probably drop a couple of unexpected games there. Well, not even unexpected, but yeah. So if we are still winning those games, you'd have to say we're probably the best, but we're not there yet. So
yeah, that's a wait and see type of thing for sure.
Another contender-ish team. I probably wouldn't even label them a contender, but I was going to ask you the question. I think they were talking about it on some footy show. They're questioning whether Geelong should have recruited Gary Ablett. Now, considering where we're at 9 rounds into the season, what's your position on that?
What did they give up for him exactly?
So, for Motlop, he left as a free agent to Port, and as compensation, Geelong got pick 19.
Okay, so they just flipped that.
They flipped that, yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So with that in mind,
who was taken? There's some decent kids they could have taken with that pick, I guess.
I wrote it down.
Yeah.
Coleman Jones went to Richmond.
Yeah.
Hasn't played a game yet. Oscar Allen at West Coast, who I'd argue is a pretty good talent.
Yeah.
Just as a West Coast fan, take that with the greatest help. I think Richmond fans are really happy with Noah Bolter.
Yeah.
Liam Ryan and Charlie Spargo's playing for Melbourne. And that's just in the next dozen picks. So
because they still got their Tim Kelly at 24.
They did. They already had the picks there to take Fogarty and Kelly.
Yeah.
And
so that 19 could have been a luxury because Fogarty was 20, wasn't he?
22.
20. Yeah, he was in that range. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you can go with the argument that they already had picks 22, 24, and 37. Whatever they got Constable
6 or
with.
7, yeah. 6 or 7, 36 or 7, yeah.
So you can understand why they go, all right, let's get the ready-made talent. And they were pretty much gifted pick 19 through Motlop leaving, so I can understand from that perspective. But would they be better off having held that pick now that we've seen that they're not even in the top 8 anymore? And they've been unconvincing.
Yeah, still, because Gary, when he's been on the park, he's looked good, I will say. He's
been awesome, but they're probably going to need another 3 years out of him to justify that price.
Yeah.
And, I mean, he's so fragile, his body at the moment. Is he gonna justify that price? I'm not too sure.
They're a tough team to gauge, really. You look at their list; it's hard to see too much weakness, but at the same time, they're just not.
Yeah,
cohesive.
I think it's pretty top heavy. I think they're actually surprisingly young. Like they've played something like all of their draftees for the last 2 years.
I can't pronounce his name. Do you know the guy I'm talking about? The bigger
Radigalia.
Yeah, that's.
He's actually a really good player.
Yeah, so they're playing a lot of those young sort of dudes.
Yeah, they are. And Parfit's a second-year player, I think, and he's out with injury at the moment, but he's actually been really impressive.
So I've seen Gregson's back on the park because he disappeared for a year because I remember when he got drafted. And then I hadn't seen him for a while. Now he's starting to get games again by looks. Yeah. No, that's true. They definitely got a lot of youth, and as I said, it's top heavy. So as soon as they start sustaining injuries to Duncan and Ablett, they kind of fell off the perch a bit, but. We'll see, obviously. It's one of those ones, if they can make the 8, they have the potential to make noise, but...
That's true. But I look at how poor they were in the last year's finals. Okay, so they got belted by Richmond, and then they belted Sydney, which admittedly is a pretty good effort. And then they got beaten pretty easily by Adelaide in the prelim, didn't they? So...
That's right, they were real up and down. I remember that now. Yeah. They were very up and down last finals.
Yeah. So I mean, I guess if you lose a prelim, then you think, oh, let's roll the dice and get a Gary Ablett. But again, using hindsight, whether that's been a good move, I'm not too sure.
Still, what was Gary going to do? Is it sound like he's going to retire or go to Geelong or something?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he was like. Yeah. He was set on coming back to Geelong, so it's probably not also realistic for them to be like, nah, we're good.
If they gave up like that 36 pick, for example, that question probably wouldn't have come up. But
that's
19,
true. So
first round pick, even though it's like the last one counting compos and all that stuff. Still technically a first rounder, ain't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it was a first round compensation pick.
Yeah, so end of first round. They could have tried to shaft Gold Coast, but I think Gold Coast got shafted like quite enough in that trade period with Lockie Wheeler, obviously. And West Coast, as it stands, West Coast's trade for them, I don't know if you remember.
That big flipping first, secondy thing where it wasn't going to be that many picks.
We basically, just so that for our listeners who probably aren't familiar with the trade, the Gold Coast traded basically 3 second rounders, for a downgrade of this year's draft. So that they got our first rounder this year, and they gave us 4 second rounders in exchange.
So this year's and 3 next year.
Yeah, 3 last year and a downgrade this year.
Okay, so you've got the 3 picks from this.
Yeah,
okay.
we took 3 picks already.
So that was your Liam Ryan, your Petrocelli range of picks.
It was Oscar Allen, Liam Ryan, and Jack Petrocelli.
Oh, yeah, Petrocelli. Yeah,
and then basically this year, this is getting very complicated. And this year we flipped picks so that they have our first and we have their second.
Yeah.
Okay.
But there's not going to be much difference.
As it stands, there is a 4 pick difference. Yeah. We got 3 second rounders for the cost of 4 pick downgrade.
Yeah.
So
and it's a pretty deep draft this year's, isn't it?
Well, yeah, if you believe.
Much.
Yeah. I mean, it is early days. Probably can't comment on it too confidently, but I think the top 15 to 20 is pretty good. So I'm still confident.
State champs began yet for the under 18s?
I don't think so. Yeah. I don't think so. But I think the Colts are missing games. So there might be like together training.
Yeah,
I haven't had
it'd be close to 18s, surely.
Yeah, I'll take some interest in that. WA definitely have some good prospects. So yeah. All right. Now on our group chat, we do love to coming up with these debates, especially like they always seem to somehow revolve around the bottom 4. Yeah. the amount we talk about Brisbane and Carlton for some reason. I'm not sure.
It's because I stick up for them and you roast
You do,
them,
I do. Yeah, you basically are the champion of the bottom 4 or bottom 2 teams.
I'm a Freo supporter, mate. What do you expect?
So I'm going to pose this question to you. Hypothetically, if you were offered the coaching job at any one of the 4 bottom teams, Brisbane, Carlton, St Kilda or Gold Coast, who would you choose and why?
In terms of coaching, I'd probably go with Carlton because I reckon I'd have the most to work with. Like, you've got some good tools there already, like Paddy Cripps, he's a star of the game. I think I remember reading a statistic a while ago, it's like, for people 21 and under in the AFL, he had the most clearances ever by a mile.
Yeah, that's true.
21s and unders.
Yeah.
Him, Charlie Curnow, he looks like a bona fide jet.
Yeah.
Even some of their, like, you'd probably lose Murphy in the next few years, so you probably can't count him as much. I even like Marchbank, Plowman. I like their back 6 really. Marchbank, Plowman, Doherty when he comes back.
Yeah, that's true. I think they're playing O'Brien as a defender at the moment.
Yeah, Lockie O'Brien.
That's probably temporary, but
yeah.
See, the problem I have with Carlton is that they so much it relies on Cripps. Like he carries such a massive weight on his shoulder, and he is an absolute star. So I'd be surprised if he gets much better than he is now. He's going to be a Brownlow contender at the end of the year, surely.
Yeah. They needed probably a few more wins for him to be Brownlow contender this year, I'd say.
Yeah. I think they've loaded up on a lot of average GWS talent. Personally, I'm not as convinced. I think you've got some good talents like SPS, Wiedering and Plowman. Those key position players you mentioned are pretty good.
Exactly.
And Paddy Dow obviously has promise, but the problem is that is just promise, isn't it? And I'm very much a believe it when I see it kind of a guy, because I've watched teams like Carlton. Like, look at Carlton; they've never finished higher than 5th since when I started watching footy, which was 2002. They've never really rebuilt properly, and even Melbourne. Melbourne had to have Paul Roos step in and intervene, and I discriminate a bit against those clubs that are perennially rebuilding, and the whole. I look at all their youth. These guys are such good prospects. For me, I'm not a huge fan of that. Like, I don't buy into it as much. I'm much more like... I'm of the opinion Carlton probably need to get these more experienced guys in. Maybe a Gaff or Sloan.
So you're a guy that, like, in terms of if you're a team list manager or whatever, you'd value an established player more than like a top pick sort of thing?
It really depends. Probably not as simplistic as that, but I want a blend. Yeah. So I'd be wary of going to a team that is so bottom heavy in terms of their future relies so much on these 18, 19-year-old guys. That's why someone like St Kilda is probably who I would choose out of the bottom 4. Personally, just because I think... Well, I'm a huge fan of the kids they've drafted. I think Akers and Hunter Clark and Caulfield and these guys, like...
They've got good youth.
They do. And the thing is, they've proven they can win games. So what did they come last year? They've just missed out on the 8? Yeah. They didn't rebuild for that long. And I think at the moment for them, they're just in they've got a bit of a bad mix at the moment. I don't know whether the coach needs to move on or...
He's probably in the hot seat.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're playing below what their talent suggests. I think Seb Ross isn't having a great year. He's been all right.
Up and down. I've had him in my dream team. He's up and down.
Yeah, I just inconsistent. Yeah, exactly. I've got him in dream team too. That's probably the basis of me saying that. But
so I got him in my draft teams because I got him as a late mid, so he was good for where I got him. But
yeah.
In terms of the best player on a team, probably not quite.
Yeah, that's true. I think they definitely lack A-grade talent. They need to...
A lot of B guys. They got a lot of B.
Gaff and Sloan are probably two... I just use those examples for Carlton, but if they need to start landing some big fish.
Yeah.
St Kilda. But
aren't the Saints sort of other than West Coast, in the driver's seat for Gaff? Would that be...
The Saints have been linked to every uncontracted player, like Fife and I think Sloan last year. And excuse me. They've always got a lot of money to burn. Yeah. But haven't really been able to land anyone other than Carlisle. It's probably the only big name they've landed. And even that was under like special circumstances.
Because he got caught.
Yeah. With
getting up to no good.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I don't think it was that. I think it was just the whole Essendon thing.
Yeah,
Essendon was doing a fire sale. Yeah. So, I think, which team would you least likely like to take over?
Gold Coast, I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Because I'll say, out of their youth, I'd sort of say it's okay, but I'd probably take Brizzy's youth maybe equal, but then Brizzy's established talent's probably better.
Yeah, I mean that's true. But I mean,
how long? Because how old's Zorko? Like mid-20s.
Yeah, about that.
Yeah.
Like 25, 24.
Yeah. So he's not old.
No, he's not.
Zorko. Beams is late 20s. I'm guessing.
Late 20s, pushing 30.
Yeah. Even Steph Martin, he's not that old, I don't think.
Actually, I think he's close to 30. Hey, I think he's been around a while. But he's a ruckman.
Yeah.
That's true. I don't think that the Brisbane senior team, other than Beams and Zorko, I guess those three you mentioned have all having great years, but I don't think that they're protecting them that much. I think Brisbane, they've had some dirty days and they're still so young, and I think that's the same logic I apply with Carlton. The fact that they've got so many prospects and they're just relying on these guys to come good soon, that makes me nervous about them. Yeah,
you want to have a natural level of sort of... That's probably where the way you guys have went is probably quite smart, actually, where you've sort of...
Anti-rebuild?
Yeah.
Is that what you're getting at?
Yeah, where you sort of... Even that Gold Coast trade where you got a good chance of getting some decent youth, but you didn't give up that much for it.
Exactly.
So it's a good blend.
I think
you said before.
Yeah, I think that was a really good value deal even before it's turned out that we've only got such a small downgrade. But
still suspected that, even though you were a bit more worried when West Coast looked like they were going to be the sliding team.
Yeah.
Before you bloody were top of the ladder by a game.
Yeah, I mean, if we finish bottom 4, then it becomes a bad trade. A top 5 pick this year would be pretty valuable. Yeah. But I quite like the notion of not bottoming out and rebuilding on the fly and just trying to stay competitive while you're developing these kids. Like, remember when we used to play for Nungaran Footy Club? Yeah. Like, we were the youngest team by far, and we got belted by 150 points every game. And how much better do you think you were by the end of the year? You know what I mean? If we played for a half-decent team, I think we would have... No disrespect to our teammates. We actually did play with some good players, but... You know what I mean?
Yeah. Because the guy I'm playing basketball with, actually, he's playing for Nungaran at the moment. He used to play for Beacon back when we used to verse him, but now...
What's his name again?
Justin Baccardo.
Okay, no, I don't know. Yeah, right. Yeah. All right, well, on that note, we'll have a short break and get into the rest of these cokes.
Absolutely.
All right, we are back with the second half of the podcast. Dramatic subject change.
Bit of a swerve.
Where do you think GWS are at?
They're currently at the hospital, I'd say. A few injuries, to say the least.
That's a good call. Ninth on the ladder now, and you have to say 2 pretty disappointing performances the last 2 weeks. They got their asses handed to them by North, and I know North are a pretty difficult proposition in Hobart.
Yeah, that was the one thing where I was like, it's in Hobart.
Yeah. And then obviously West Coast beat them, and you could make the excuse that GWS are depleted, but West Coast were pretty depleted too. And West Coast had probably their 3 best players out, other than Kennedy. And Nat Nui, Shuey and McGovern, and I'd argue West Coast rely on those players more than GWS, I would have thought, rely on their players. So
they're supposed to be a bit more of an even spread, you'd say, GWS, in terms of reliance.
That's true, yeah. I mean, the thing with them is that while I do think they will improve when they get their players back, if they don't finish in the top 4, I can't see them sort of posing a threat. You know what I mean? Like they can't win at the MCG. Like I don't think they. Oh, I guess they beat Collingwood there this year, but I mean they got beaten pretty easily in the prelim last year against Richmond. They really need to get their act together and start winning games before this season gets out of control for them.
Yeah, definitely. Because if this season's a write-off for them, what's next for GWS? That's the big thing. Like they've had a few years where they've looked sort of primed and all that youth's come up and they look good to go, but it's not happened for them so far, which is...
Yeah. They, I honestly think a lot of their players are waiting to win a flag and then they're going to get out. I think I've said this before. Josh Kelly obviously signed a 2-year deal. Like that's... Well, you don't get a lot of confidence from that. I think, is he probably a free agent in 2 years? Or maybe, yeah, that's probably close to it.
It wouldn't be 8 years.
Maybe. Okay, maybe he's 1 year off then. But either way...
It's 8 years before you're a full-blown free agent, isn't it?
Yeah, no, 8 years before you're restricted and then 10 before you're unrestricted.
Okay.
But no, I think I got the math wrong on that. I think he's not a free agent at the end of 2 years.
Because he was 13 draft, I remember.
Yeah, but regardless, I think he's going to look for a way out. I think he's going to wait to see how well GWS do and see if he can win a flag with them. And that's probably why he didn't want to rush off to North, who at the time we all thought were probably going to be bottom 4.
Yeah.
But I mean, they got Josh Kelly coming back, I think, soon.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed for them. Obviously, probably their best player, you'd argue.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a pretty elite midfielder.
Yeah, his skills are schmick. Pretty fruit. That's a reference to a conversation I was having the other day. If it was funny, but if the boys were part of that by watching. Huh. A bit of a segue there, but
well, I wasn't part of it.
Right, should come around.
Who else have they got out? They got Deledio probably back in 2 weeks max, I think. And then after that, they've got Scully is still another 2 months away, they reckon.
And then he's handy off that back line, especially now that Wilson's gone, Zach Williams is out for the year.
That's kind of the role Whitfield's playing at the moment, is that rebounding. I think that's pretty much where he's suited, to be honest.
Yeah, so it works for Whitfield, though. That's the thing.
Yeah, I think he plays well as quite an unaccountable player. He's a bit of a...
floater.
I was going to say seagull. But it sounds a bit harsh because he's a quality player, but...
floaters, maybe. He floats around the field and impacts when he needs to. Yeah. Isn't necessarily a bit of a West... They're different players, obviously, but a bit of a West off where he just floats around and does what he needs to do. It's
a very politically correct term.
Yeah.
So Toby Green is another one, 3 weeks away. When they get these players back, you could see them being dangerous. So I think West Coast got them at a good time. And we had 4 players out too, so the fact that we won is pretty.
You got each other at a good time. You just
that's probably fair.
On the day.
Yeah, we were better on the day.
Was it here or there? I can't remember.
No, it was in Sydney.
Yeah, that's a good away win because that's always been a bit of a knock on you guys, but it doesn't seem to be as much this year.
I think
lost one game and it was here.
I've always been confident, at the risk of going back to the Eagles. I've always been confident in our form, pretty much anywhere except the G. We have a reasonable record at Spotless Stadium. And obviously Adelaide Oval were very good there. And even at Etihad we're not that bad. So it's pretty much to the G where we get belted.
Yeah.
But Fremantle are probably the team that are probably more so struggling away from home.
Yeah,
we'd say.
But still, a few of our away games have been good teams. GWS. I'd say with Freo, we're beating the teams you'd expect us to beat, and we're losing to teams that are pretty good, close to the mark for contenders, if not contenders.
That's very true. A couple of years ago, they might have called you flat track bullies. Not that I think that's applicable here, but
we're not bullying anyone other than bloody Gold Coast and the Bulldogs.
Yeah, that's true. What's your read on Fremantle then? Are you pretty satisfied?
If we're bad next year, Ross Lyon's head's probably on the chopping block. If we look bad next year, or if we look really bad at the end of this year, because the last couple of weeks we've looked a bit
iffy.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to see how we refresh after the bye to see if we can come back with a bit of pit.
Yeah, I mean, you guys are on track to be comfortably better than last year, though.
Yeah, we're 4 and...
Are you 4 and 4?
I think so.
Or 4 and 5. You might be 4 and 5.
Might be 4 and 5, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think you're 5 and 4, so you must be 4 and 5.
Yeah. We're either 500 or just below 500 in terms of like 50% win thing. It's a basketball term, 500.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's why I was a bit like, people might not know that term.
Just stay cool, Jesse. Fremantle.
We're 4 and 5.
4 and 5,
yeah.
Yeah, I mean...
Our percentage is a lot better than it was this time last year. Because this time last year we'd had a few big drummings. We versed similar teams in similar conditions, still lost, but instead of losing by like 80, 100, we've lost by like 40, 60.
That's true. Yeah.
And we have patches where we look bloody brilliant, but
yeah,
we're very much a momentum team, I'd say. Like, when we get on momentum, we can keep that momentum going, but if something knocks that momentum, we go to...
Right, yeah. Probably a byproduct of having so many young players. I think you guys are clearly relying a lot on your best players.
Yeah.
Sandy, Fife and Neil are obviously having great years.
Walters even.
Yeah. I mean, he obviously just missed... Oh, he only missed 2 weeks, didn't he?
Only missed 2 weeks.
Yeah, man, that feels like a long time.
And he's that barometer type player. Like, he's not necessarily our best player, but when he's playing well, we're playing well.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
He's more of an X... He can have more of an X factor impact than probably anyone on the team not named Fife. And even at times, he can impact the game more than Fife does. Like, there was one game where Fife had like... I was there. Fife had like 35, 38 touches. I barely realised. I had Michael Walters as the best player on the ground by a mile.
Yeah.
Even though Fife had like 35 plus touches.
Yeah.
Just Walters is just real X factor, impacts the game with his possessions.
He's very damaging, definitely.
His 25 possessions are probably more valuable than like a Lockie Neal 35 possessions. Maybe.
Yeah, absolutely. Is he playing much mid at the moment?
It's hard because the last few weeks it's hard to say, but it's probably a bit of half and half.
Okay.
Maybe.
Yeah. What was his injury? It was a hamstring, right?
Or
was it knee? It might have been knee.
It was something like that.
I think he got his knee caught on him.
Yeah.
But you got to be happy with someone like Luke Ryan.
Yeah, I'm loving Lukey Ryan. He's playing great.
Yeah, I think
even Ed Langdon's been pretty good knock the past few weeks. Eddie Langdon.
Yeah, actually, he was the obvious one. I wish I'd said him first.
Yeah, Blakely's.
Yep.
Yeah, Blakely's probably my favourite docker. Really,
those guys are.
Before, and I'll say it again.
You guys are getting a few ball winners in the back half, aren't you? Like Ryan's averaging like 20 something.
He'd be averaging over 20.
I think about 20 at least. Yeah. And what's Blakely have 35 possessions of the week?
Blakely'd be closer to 30 than 20 probably.
Yeah.
I guess I haven't looked at his stats, but I guess he's closer to 30 a game than 20.
Yeah, I wonder if he's ever going to make the transition to midfield. We've made this.
I want him to.
Before.
I want him in there.
Yeah.
But even like once Mundy goes, he's the guy I'd like to. Take that mantle, I guess.
Yeah, that's fair. He's becoming a pretty mature player.
Even when we drafted him, I thought Mundy replacement the second we drafted him.
Yeah, they are quite similar. Yeah.
Similar size.
Except Mundy probably is
more
better forward, and then Blakely's obviously proven himself to be quite good back.
Yeah. Still, when Ross first chucked him back, I didn't see it working, but it's worked.
Yeah.
I will say. I didn't really see him as a backman, but it's panned out.
Who's your favourite first year docker in terms of who do you think's playing the best?
I'm loving Brayshaw. He's leading the Dockers in tackles by a decent margin. Like in terms of like tackles for the season, he's leading the team by a decent margin.
That's
which is probably a factor we'd need a bit more in the midfield because Neil tackles a bit, but you don't really see Fifey and Mundy tackling heaps of people, and they'll put a bit of pressure on him, but they won't really tackle.
Yeah, they're your best offensive weapons, really, aren't they? So you probably don't need them racking up the tackles.
Even Banfield, I'm liking how he can tag. He's
that's true.
Decent tagger as well.
Very competitive kind of player, Banfield.
Yeah, and Chero's shown some poise in front of the goals.
Yeah, I think Chero looks the best, but I mean, it's easy to say that when a player's quite inclined to be outside. He's obviously very classy and looks really good when he's got the ball.
Yeah. The question is, can he get his ball to a certain extent?
I think he can, yeah. I mean, I think he's got an inside game. He's just playing a role at the moment where the ball's kind of got to come to him a little bit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because they're playing him as more of a forward than a mid anyway at this stage of the game.
That's true. All right. The other team I want to talk about is Melbourne. You mentioned it before. They're third. How?
That's what I'm like. How?
Yeah.
The last podcast, they were looking terrible.
They were. They've had a stretch of easy games. I just use the term flat track bully. I think I don't think it's necessarily a bad tag. Like, teams can only beat who they can beat.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's something wrong with the team to punish the teams below them. But at the moment they're losing all the games against equal or better teams.
Yeah.
And they're pumping teams like Carlton.
A bit like Freo, even we're beating the teams we should beat pretty comfortably, really.
Yeah.
And then against legitimate teams, we're a different story.
That's true.
Melbourne's probably similar, but better version of that.
I mean, a 109-point win is pretty extreme.
Yeah.
That must be one of the biggest wins this year so far.
Probably is the almost.
I feel like there might be another one.
There might have been Brizzy Richmond. That was a drumming.
No, I think that was less than 100 though.
It was over 100, I think.
Was it? No, it was 110 to 17, I think.
Oh, yeah.
But,
might have been 90, yeah.
But Brisbane scored their lowest ever score.
Yeah, that's probably what made it seem worse.
But, I mean, Melbourne, look, the season Max Gawn's having is awesome. I just made him my dream team captain, which I regret because Tom Mitchell just scored 150 points the week after I did that.
Still, I was chatting to a few guys at basketball that are into their dream team a bit last night as well. Actually, they were saying Maxi Gawn, they're happy to have him as their captain because you're guaranteed that at least 100 from him.
I think he scored 105 or 110 this weekend, and then Mitchell
100 from him.
But I had switched him from Mitchell, who scored 150. So that was a pain. But I think he's averaging 47.6 hit-outs this year, Maxi Gawn, and I think he's third in the coaching votes behind Nat Fyfe is first and Jack Darling second. Yeah. So he's a massive driver for them. I think he's probably one of those rare rucks that lifts his whole team. There's not that many in the league. Grundy's probably the other one. Yeah. Nick Nat,
Steph Martin, but he's not lifting that team that far.
Yeah.
If you were doing better, you'd say Steph Martin for sure. But.
Yep. But I mean, he's just got a real presence. And who else have they got playing well? I think. Oh, I was going to say it's really good to see Brayshaw playing well because he's averaged over 25 possessions the last 3 weeks, and I think he's had 32. A few good games.
I haven't looked too much at his stats, but I've seen he's been up there amongst top dream teamers and stuff. So that means he's getting a bit of the pill. Yeah, I remember Dylan in his dream team stuck Brayshaw on the bench in round 1, and he hasn't played. Well, he didn't play for the first bunch, and now he's starting to reap the rewards because I think he scored he must be averaging he's
80.
Cracked 100 the past couple. I think probably averaging about 80. Yeah,
that's
taking
right.
a few games to build into it, obviously. Once back.
I think he got 11 tackles last week. Yeah, so he's still going hard.
The Brayshaw boys tackled.
Yeah,
that's the headline.
That makes sense. I think Hamish Brayshaw for West Coast is 2 weeks away from his first game of the year because he's had a knee injury. Yeah, so hopefully he can tackle as well. Be interesting to see what role he plays. He's quite big. I think he's taller than
Andrew. He's the biggest of the three, I think, in terms of height, isn't he?
I think he's the same as Angus, and Andrew's a little bit shorter than both.
Yeah, Andrew's 184.
Yeah.
Angus is 188 or so.
Yeah, I think Hamish is 187. So, yeah. All right, so just a few comments to close out. Who are the Brownlow contenders? I know you like this topic.
Fifey, obviously.
Nah. No, I'm just kidding.
In 100, with Richmond drumming us, he probably still got the 3 votes. That's an example.
That's a really interesting one. I wonder how they'll go with that. Yeah, probably. I mean, I remember Ablett.
Dusty had a better game. They would go, let's give it to Dusty. But he had a pretty average game.
Ablett got 3 votes in a game they lost by 80 points once for Gold Coast. He had 50 posies, obviously. So it's hard not to. But
no one stood out enough for Richmond because they do look to give the 3 votes to the winning team, but no one probably stood out enough to warrant it.
I missed the game, but I clicked on the stats and Fyfe and Neil were clearly by far the best 2 statistically.
Yeah, Neil might even jag 1 vote.
Yeah, but I mean, there's a counter argument to that, and they say that you shouldn't give your man of the match to the team that loses because it should go to the team the player that influenced the result the most.
Still, Fyfe didn't play as well as he did. We probably would have got drummed by 120.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's probably very true. Yeah, Brisbane-like, you could say. And who else? Obviously, Tom Mitchell. Yeah, I mean, he's had a few lean weeks, but then obviously 46 possessions I think he got yesterday or Sunday.
Something like that.
I think a goal and 46 possessions. But then again, they lost by 10 goals. So is he going to get 3 votes? Probably not. I think Zorko played pretty well.
Yeah, Zorko had a big game.
Yeah.
That's the difference in that sort of instance. Zorko's a viable on the winning team, but they'd go to.
That's true. But
if there's someone viable on the winning team, they'll go with them. Yeah. I reckon that's the way I'd say the umpires call it.
McRae's another one. He's getting a million kicks. Plays on a losing team.
Yeah, I saw a thing. It was I was watching some Fox Footy analysis show, and it was Joey Montagna is saying he's top 5 mids. He had McRae at 5. Yeah, best midfielder in the game. I've
been saying for a while he's quite underrated, and I think now he's starting to get the praise. Probably because he's winning the ball 45 times a game. Yeah. I think his last 4 weeks, his lowest dream team score is 144.
McRae.
Yeah. That's ridiculous. Yeah. I'm going to have to edit that out.
Beat that out for me,
please. And I think the 4th favourite is Dusty, and I think...
Maxi Gawn? No Maxi Gawn?
When was the last time a ruck polled really well?
Still, Jimmy who else Steins? Is going to poll for Melbourne, really? In their wins?
True. That's true.
That's the thing. Like most of those last time,
Nathan Jones.
Old toe ball.
I think he did. I think he got like 31 posies on the weekend.
Yeah. But still, Maxi Gawn's probably one they're looking out for a little more, maybe. So I'd say he's a smoky, if nothing else.
Fair enough. I mean, he has been consistent, if nothing else. He's been excellent, no doubt. It's just I'm skeptical that they're going to pay votes to Ruckman.
Still, Buddy's always close, but never quite there.
But I mean, he kicks goals. He's much more visible, isn't he?
I'd say Maxi Gawn's pretty visible. 209, scraggly beard.
True.
Bit of a meme guy that everyone gets around.
Yeah. And Dusty, I think, is the fourth favourite because he's just... I think it's more based on what he can do in the second half of the year rather than what he has done.
He would have got some votes in the first half of the season,
yeah,
obviously.
for sure. Yeah, had a 6-goal game, I think, earlier. So.
Yeah, he's had a few monster games.
Yep.
He's had a few average games as well.
Yeah, he has. Oh, yeah, well held by Elliot Yeo.
Yeah.
Elliot Yeo definitely won that battle on Sunday.
Yeah.
He's our Dusty.
Do you reckon who? Because the Eagles are top of that. Surely they'd have someone that could be a sniff, or is it? Do you reckon it's a bit more of a balanced effort?
I think we've been ridiculously even. I think in terms of coaching votes, we've got like more players to get coaching votes this year than like any of the previous years, and we're only like 9 rounds in, or something. Some ridiculous stat like that. Yeah. Gaff's been really consistent, but then so is Yo. Hearn was really probably a number of BOGs at the start of the year. Darling's picked up the pace, probably got the last 2. So. I don't think we're going to be...
Too many votes stealing.
Yeah, exactly right. I think this is the most even team I've ever seen at West Coast. So, yeah, I don't think we're going to be a factor for that.
Yeah, fair call. Who else is second? Yeah, I can't think of too many more. No one from Sydney, really.
No, not really.
Adelaide.
I think Danger's a distant next favourite in that. But
even he's had ups and downs. Really. He's been a bit...
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't really think of too many more other than the obvious Fifes, Mitchells.
Yeah. No, I think there's only a few really in the mix right now. But I mean, it's only round 9 or round 10, so yeah.
Because you could say Fife would probably be sitting this is just a figure I'm pulling out of my head, but I'm guessing about 15 to 18 votes already in the Brownlow. 9 rounds.
That'd be nuts.
I reckon it'd be close because he'd have a fair few. Most games we've won, he'd probably get the 3. There's probably a couple where someone else will get the 3, but and then he'll probably get the 3 in that Richmond game, and then lots of 2s and stuff in the other losing games where he's...
The record, I think, is 36. Is it? Dusty got 36?
Yeah.
So if he's on 18 at round 9, he'd be smashing it.
15 to 18, so that sort of ballpark, I reckon. I reckon it's quite possible.
Yeah, it's hard to argue against that without really having a look at it.
Exactly. This is off my head, speculating, but I'm sort of, the games we've won, probably most of them, he's probably 3 out of 4, he's probably got the 3 votes.
Yeah, fair enough.
And then in the 5 losing games, probably 1 or 2 of the 3 votes, and then the others, he's pinched probably 2 or 1.
Yep. Cool. Yeah. All right, man. Well, that was a pretty good effort.
Yeah.
You did no reason to be so nervous. I don't know why you spewed before we did it, but...
I was a bit worried.
It was good fun. Hopefully we'll regain Joyce and Stank for next one. That's Joycey for those who don't know. And I don't know if we're going to see Louis until about August when he gets back from his extended honeymoon in Russia for the World Cup. So
he'll come back in ready for finals. He'll get a chance to pump up his beloved Eagles. He'll love it. Yeah.
Well, I was hoping to do a massive week, a grand final week, where we do 2 or 3 podcasts, maybe 2 podcasts. Yeah. But I might be going for it. So
you're really seriously looking at...
I'm seriously looking, yeah. I'm considering going and just even if the Eagles don't make it, then...
You and your old boy? Or,
yeah, it'll be me and Dad for sure. So, yeah. All right. Thanks to everyone for watching if you're still here. Peace out. And subscribe, please. Jeez.
Like, comment, subscribe.
Yeah, I forgot, yeah.